Ooh, that was hot. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of your favorite campsite swimbait channel, because I think Jeffrey and Marshall have a better swimbait channel than I do. We're back. We're going to be doing a video today, not constantly yapping, but we're going to go to Bass Pro or local Cabela's and go see what kind of knockoff swimbaits they have. We're going to go buy a couple. Then we'll go home, we'll talk about the differences, talk about why, unfortunately, I think the knockoff swimbait market is not going anywhere, and it's probably why it's going to grow within the next couple years. No, hi, puppy dog. Hi, Odie Dodes. What do you want to say to people? That's what I thought he was going to say. We're going to go warm up the truck. It is probably like 12 degrees right now, and we're going to mob our way down to Cabela's, buy them out of all their knockoffs, not buying them out, but we're going to buy a couple. Hopefully they have like the Nessie, the Cole Shad, maybe a couple other ones. I can't even really name that many off the top of my head, but we'll go see what they have. We'll go home, review them, obviously talk about why I think supporting the smaller guys is a little bit better. All right, we got to go warm the truck up, because if not, Taylor is going to kill me for having a cold truck, and that will just not do for my queen. So let's go do that. Honestly, for how cold it is, it's a pretty nice day. I'm not home right now. I am, like I said, at my girlfriend's house, about 2 hours south of where I live. They got probably like 3 inches of snow yesterday. We got like a foot. It's still cold though, no matter what, it's still cold. The most essential part of living in a cold place is warming up your vehicle. I don't care what anybody says. It helps. Oh, it makes it nicer when you get in the car and you're not freezing your bum off. I know it's really dark right here, so we'll pull you guys back out. I don't know, like I said, my expectations aren't crazy high or crazy low. I expect them to have the Cole Shad probably, Cole Shad at least, and maybe the Nessie. Look at our dog. What are you doing, Odes? Come here. He's like, what the heck do you have in your hand, Dad? I don't know, it's gonna be kind of fun. It's like a little vlog video style. Not really doing anything too crazy though. Probably gonna have to record on my phone when we go to Cabela's, because I don't think they're gonna let me walk in with this thing. And if they do, I don't know how comfortable I'll be talking to this thing the whole time. So like I said, it should be a fun video. Change it up a little bit, give you guys something that's not me sitting in my room yapping. I'll put you guys in the nice warm truck and we'll meet you guys in there. Nice and conveniently, we have all the knockoffs on this little display case. So we'll get a Nessie, we'll get a Cole Shad, and we'll go see what other kind of knockoff baits that Cabela's likes to carry. So we had that huge display case for the knockoffs, and we have this little section for the real ones. So that's crazy. We'll get a couple mag drafts, because I'd rather have mag drafts than this. So we'll go see if there's any more knockoff stuff. It's probably a gajillion of them around here, but I guess we'll keep looking. I don't know, we'll see what we can find. Alrighty guys, so we got the real ones. We got the real mag drafts, got the Cole Shad, got the Nessie, so flag 255 will be the comparison for this. And then these two guys, we tried to get close to the same color to show you guys how similar they actually are. We'll go more in depth when I'm back at the house. It's kind of crazy how big of a selection that they had for all the Berkeley stuff, and then the mag draft section was super itty bitty tiny. There was no, like, it wasn't even on an end cap or anything crazy, or like a big sign that said this is the real one, get this one to support real bait makers. It's whatever. Got a couple other things, got some hooks, some freestyles, a toy for Otis while we were gone and away, since we had to leave him at home. I'm interested to see kind of the similarities. I've never really actually held a Nessie. I've held a Cole Shad, but I haven't really gone in depth. So I'm excited to get these out of the package and kind of do a side-by-side comparison. What they kind of directly took off, and then maybe what they quote-unquote innovated for the Cole Shad. We're gonna go grocery shop now, go hit up Aldi, made famous by the homeless fisherman. I'll see you guys back at the house and we'll start breaking these baits down. What's up guys, made it back home. Gonna kind of crack these out of the package, see what they're all about. There's something that I've already noticed with the Nessie that I don't think Grow Design Works would let through their quality control. Just a couple flags I've had were very beautiful baits. They looked awesome, they swam awesome. And already just looking at the package that the Nessie came in, I'm looking at it and I'm seeing some things that their quality control guy maybe he was snoozing when he stamped him through the conveyor line, or however Berkeley does their quality control. So maybe Berkeley doesn't necessarily care about their quality control as much. They're probably pumping out so many more baits, but still, you spend $12 on a bait. To us, that's not a lot. To some guys, that's quite a bit. $12 for a bait, you want it to kind of look good. Not that saying that any of these things that I'm going to point out on this bait are going to affect the swim, but just kind of a lack of trying, a lack of quality control, whatever it may be. So this will be the first time I'm opening this bait. I can just tell from when I was looking at it at the package when we were standing in line to check out that there was something, a couple things that this bait was, that were kind of interesting with this bait. So Berkeley Nessie, this is the 9-inch. It weighs 2 ounces, 9 inches, glide bait, slow sinking, whatever else it may be. The back has a couple like renderings and some write-ups about this bait and kind of what makes it special. As we know, maybe it's not as special of a bait as Berkeley claims it to be. Okay, so the first thing I noticed with taking this thing out of the package is there's some stuff that is kind of very crude and their production just does not give a flying hoot about. I'll have a close-up video here about the stuff that I'm kind of pointing out here. There is a bunch of indents all along the plastic where maybe it was sitting up against other baits when it was drying, or maybe the paint didn't adhere right to the plastic. There's some gouges in it. There's some spots where they didn't even, the paint's just completely missing. Under this stabilization fin, there's no paint there. On the back, there's paint peeling off the tail. When they're making who knows how many of these baits in a day, they don't care about what it really looks like as long as it comes out of the mold and, oh, yep, looks good. I'm sure they put it in the package and they sell it. People, some smaller brands have different priorities than that. But this thing is pretty lackluster on the quality control, I should say. Just some stuff. There's like glue on the tail from where their machine or person just threw some glue on it. Very interesting. Like I said, for $12, us as swim baiters, $12 isn't a lot. And so we would kind of, when we buy a swim bait, we expect it to be very, very close to a piece of artwork. This flag has caught me a ton of fish. Obviously, there's teeth marks all over it, but there's still paint on it. There's some cuts from pike that obviously it didn't come out of the package like that. This bait has been fished quite a bit, and like I said, there's still paint on it. There's some gouges from fish eating it, but you're going to get that when you fish these baits. This thing was directly out of the package, and it was already pretty torn up, I guess is probably how I would say. So side-by-side comparison, flag I think is 10 inches, and this is 9 inches. I think this was the only one they had. Maybe they do make a 10-inch one. I just was off the top of my head, this is the closest one to the same color. Obviously, just from what I'm looking at here, the flag has a different style paint. They must like paint the bait directly, and I don't know if it doesn't adhere correctly or what, or if it like cracks, but I think that's why this paint's flaking off, whereas Grow Design Works must do some kind of different painting where it soaks into the plastic a little bit better. I don't know. I'm sure somebody who paints soft plastics, Garrett's Customs, could probably tell us a little bit more about that. But this almost looks like a screen print or something. I don't really know. I'm not a painter, so I can't say. But there is definitely some flaws in this thing, so it wasn't hand painted or really looked over like the flags are. Obviously, the price reflects that, but for $12, you kind of are getting what you paid for when you buy this bait. So while we're on the flag and the Nessie, we'll talk about the differences and the same and kind of what maybe Berkeley did differently from this. Okay, so the Nessie, we'll start with the Nessie. Nessie has hard plastic fins, kind of stabilization fins, I think is kind of what they call that. That is molded into the bait. I'm sure it's a part of a bubble, kind of like the head case harness on the Citizens. So that's there. You can't really break those off or anything. It's not plastic, so they're not going to rip or whatnot. They have net meshing in the joint, which I can like physically see, which is interesting. I feel like you'd want a little bit of plastic over that, but whatever. Actually, the netting extends past the bait on the backside, like they just chopped it off and called it good. Again, I'm just nitpicking here because it is a very, very solid inspiration from the flag. And I actually will post a video here of Mike Iaconelli holding a flag 170 around the time they first started to come out, and him saying, "Oh my gosh, this bait's awesome." And then couple years later, we get this from Berkeley.
Package shows up in the mail, and you get a little excited.
So coincidence? I don't know. You guys can name it what you want. Anyway, this bait does have a brush tail. which we don't really see in soft glide baits. That's something that's interesting and kind of unique to the Berkeley, as well as the hook clip down here, which is kind of hard. They have a little C clamp that this hook sits into. Kind of a interesting deal. It's pretty hard to unclip from the actual hook, but maybe it has a case. Maybe it works well. I don't know. I've never fished this thing, so I can't say that. This is all based on general overview of the first sight of this bait. So the Nessie, as we said, is a heavy inspiration of the flag. Instead of plastic fins, Grow Design Works uses their plastic fins, their soft plastic fins. That's all in there. You don't have to worry about breaking them off or anything. I've never ripped them. I've caught a couple fish on this, like I said, never ripped any of the fins. It still stabilizes perfectly fine. You can cast this into a dock and you're not going to break anything, which is pretty nice in my opinion. They have the same hardware, actually. A chin mount to a split ring to a barrel swivel to a split ring to a hook. Berkeley liked it so much that they replicated it into the Nessie. So line tie, same exact line tie, which is kind of crazy. Tail kind of tapers in the same direction, obviously. The flag has a solid plastic tail, which I like a little bit better. But maybe this brush tail is okay. I don't know. Like I said, I've never fished this, so I can't really say. I mean, the eyes, Berkeley has a bigger eye, but it's kind of the same eye shape. The gill plates are pretty close to the same design, give or take a little bit. Like I said, we know that Berkeley got a lot of inspiration from the flag. They did kind of change a few things, and I don't know if I'd necessarily call this a knockoff. There's a general term that we use for knockoff that kind of when people draw inspiration, heavy inspiration from baits, and I don't think the term knockoff is quite right. This is a direct kind of idea off the flag. They saw the flag and they're like, we want to build this bait, but we want to make some changes to it, so we're going to copy a lot of stuff from it, but it's not going to be a direct knockoff. So this thing, like I said, does have some differences than the flag. I would still consider it a knockoff under that general umbrella term, but a true knockoff is what some guys do when they take a blank from Throwback or take a Hinkle Trout, or I know Buka has had some knockoff where they take the resin bait, they send it off to China, they get it scanned, molded, and then they're pouring ABS baits. That's what I consider a true knockoff. This is just a heavily inspired bait from Flag, still kind of quote unquote a knockoff, but not necessarily the type of knockoff, not the type of knockoff that comes to my mind when I think of that word. And then the other classic, I think the Coal Shad came out before the Nessie. I think this was the year before. So the 6-inch Coal Shad from Berkeley, and then obviously the 6-inch Mag Draft from Megabass. Megabass did come out with theirs first. Like we all kind of know that essentially I'm sure we've all fished them. So we'll crack this thing out of the package real quick, and we'll go over the OG Mag Draft first. Alright, so the Mag Draft is a very cool bait. We all know it. Everybody kind of makes their variant of it now, so it's kind of a pass around idea. But Megabass's Mag Draft was first. Kind of has that same style harness that we were talking about with the flag, with the nose piece, all in one piece. It rounds off. So the hook tie goes from a barrel swivel to a split ring to a treble hook, so kind of that same style we were talking about in the last one. And I guess that really makes it so you can spin it around and those fish will never get leverage to throw the bait. With the Megabass Mag Draft, you are getting a magnet in there, so you can fish it with the hooks exposed. So if you're fishing it like over grass or whatnot, you can kind of leave all those hooks still exposed so if a fish comes up and slaps it. Or if you're fishing some cover and stuff, you can sink that hook in there, kind of leave kind of a stinger look, a frog hook style, where there's two hooks sitting out of the belly just like that. That magnet holds that hook in there really well. The one thing I will say is after a couple fish, that magnet does fall out, and you kind of start to have to cram this hook in there, maybe use some mend it, but the Mag Drafts are really fun. Their plastic is really soft, so like I said, you do have to work on them sometimes, but all in all, really good bait. First looks, paint's really solid, nothing too crazy in it. What you would expect out of a $14 bait from Megabass. Solid bait, catches a lot of fish. Everybody has one of these, everybody's fished one of these, whatever else it may be. Good bait, everybody likes them. And our friends at Berkeley come out with the Coal Shad in a whole variety of sizes. This is the 6-inch, 1 ounce, and 1/5. The Megabass 6-inch Mag Draft comes in at 6 inches, 1 ounce, 1/4. So there is a little bit of a difference in their weight there. This Coal Shad's a little bit lighter. And I tried to get the same colors of both baits to kind of show you guys a little bit better. Alright, so you got the 6-inch Coal Shad here. First thing that sticks out is obviously different than the Mag Draft. It has a honeycomb design in the tail. I'm guessing the thought behind that is it can kick a little more. It doesn't have to spend as much material, so it can kick further into the bait and therefore kind of push off more water. I'm not a bait designer, so I can't tell you. Berkeley must really like this hook clip idea because it is also on the coal shad as well as it was on the Nessie. This one just the same. It's kind of a little hard to pull the bait out, whether that was their intention or maybe you have to break it in. I don't know. One thing I have noticed just right off the rip here is being a 6-inch bait, the coal shad's hook sits back a little bit further, which is interesting because fish don't really have a problem eating this 6-inch, but Berkeley must have just went with what they thought. So same with the Nessie, we have the line tied down to the hook hanger, and kind of the same thing that they must just be running with. It goes from hook hanger to a split ring to a barrel swivel to a split ring to a hook. It's a lot of hardware in there. Again, if you just did the single split ring to a barrel swivel, you're not going to worry about the fish throwing the bait like Megabass does in the 6-inch mag draft. But whatever. I think if you got rid of that last swivel, it'd probably be close to the same hook length as the mag draft. But Berkeley likes doing this, I guess. The hook, I will say, the hook keeper is nice because it's not a magnet, so it's always going to kind of be in there unless it pulls out. But if that pulls out, you're kind of screwed because it looks like it's screwed into halfway into the bait. So you'll be missing some plastic, which probably will render this bait a little bit harder to fish, I would think. The coal shad does not have stabilizing fins, which is very interesting. There's nothing on this bait that kind of shows that it tracks straight in the water, which I guess that's kind of a good design if you don't have to add a stabilization fin to keep this thing from rolling or running straight. Good for you guys. It's interesting. I'd like to swim this thing and see how straight it swims. Outside of that, the Berkeley has a slighter tail angle, so it kind of goes off on a 45-degree, whereas the boot style tail, I guess we'll call it, on the mag draft is a little bit more straight, kind of probably at like a 95-degree. It's not straight down, but it's not straight on an angle like the coal shad. All in all, these baits are very similar, as we know. This is kind of the point of the video. Similar in price too. I think the 6-inch coal shad was $9, and then the 6-inch mag draft was like that $13, $14. Obviously, people are gonna pick up this bait just if they're not super familiar with swim baits or just getting into it. They're gonna pick up the cheaper variety of these baits. What's weird is that they sell the mag draft and they sell the coal shad, but they're not even close to each other in the store, which is, I think, very interesting. I think kind of a ploy to maybe keep it away from people. I don't know. I'm only speculating here. So like I said, there's umbrella terms that we use in the knockoff scene. I think these baits are knockoffs, but more so I think they're heavily inspired by these other baits that we've been talking about, the mag draft and the flag. Like I said, when I think of a knockoff, I think of a blatant ABS copy of a manufactured bait here in the U.S., a resin manufactured bait here in the U.S. These are heavily copied baits, much so as some people who make baits in the US, who were making baits 10 years ago and somebody new on the scene comes up and they make a bait, they might not know that it's kind of a blatant copy like these baits are. And, it's kind of the same thing. Maybe it's not necessarily what we call a knockoff, but it's heavily drawing inspiration from other people, or they don't even know, which happens all the time as well. One thing that I think is very funny is people will crucify guys for swimming these baits, for fishing these baits, catching fish on these baits, but yet they turn around and they buy knockoff Tiny Clashes or knockoff Ghosts, or there's a whole list we could go down. Reel handles, whatever else it may be. They say, "Oh my gosh, you are the devil for supporting Berkeley," and then they turn around and they're fishing Go Mexus handles, or they're stemming some kind of other knockoff that wasn't necessarily the first one on the scene, or a bait builder that we all know blatantly molded a KGB Chad Shad, where somebody's saying this guy makes the best glide bait, and we all know it's a knockoff of a KGB Chad Shad, but yet they're yelling at people in comment sections because they're fishing these baits. I don't know. It's hypocritical. Guys like to be the loudest ones in the room, and if you're doing something that they don't like, they're gonna make sure you know that. So I don't think you can really help it. People are gonna argue about what they want to argue about. The other main part of this video is why I think baits like this are not going to be going anywhere, and why we're maybe necessarily doomed in the swim bait market and its consequences. So these things are not going to be going anywhere. They're so cheap for companies to produce and make. They don't have to worry about the masses knowing that they knocked off this bait, because only the true swim bait guys will ever know that. They're selling these dudes for $12, like honestly like $6 to $12. These things are going to get bought up like hotcakes. If they don't swim right, it's okay, because people are still going to buy them, because people are going to be scared that they're going to lose this thing to a pike, but it's only $12, so I'll just buy another one. Or it's only $12. It's okay if it doesn't swim right, because I didn't spend $100 on this thing, and maybe this thing won't swim right out of the package. So it's a really, really weird game that we all play, and I think in the long run, more conventional guys are going to be willing to pull the trigger on these baits that don't cost an arm and a leg, and may not meet their satisfaction, but they're still going to turn around and come back and buy more, because it was such a low cost of investment and such a low cost of entry for the swim bait game. And you have to be really committed to spend $100 on a bait, whereas you could be a 15-year-old kid with a couple dollars from shore money, and you're going to go out and buy these baits and probably catch the same fish we are on the name brand stuff, but you're not going to be necessarily sure what's going on behind the doors of engineering these baits and designing these baits. So it's always going to happen, and I think as more and more people get into fishing and bass fishing, these style baits are going to continue to grow from these big companies that we see in the U.S. Using overseas factories. They're just going to keep making these baits that are knocking off, copying the baits that we love, that we pay a high dollar for, because we know the builders, or we're friends with the builders, or we know what it took for that builder to make this bait to get it where it's at today. It's just how it is. That's how the cookie crumbles. I don't think as a swim bait community we can stop it, but we can shed light on when these guys kind of do something shady, and make sure that we fill the comments or whatever else it may be, that we show people, hey guys, this stuff is cool. Like, if you guys want to fish it, cool, we can't stop you. But if you want a high quality bait that performs better than that $12 piece of plastic, check these out, or check the mag drafts out, whatever else it may be. I don't know, guys. I've been rambling long enough. Let me know in the comments below if you guys fish these baits. I don't care. I want to hear what you guys think. If you think the Coal Shad's better because the plastic is a little bit harder than the mag draft and it doesn't fall apart after a couple fish, let me know that in the comments. If you think that the Nessie tail falls out really fast because they super glue them kind of half-ass, let me know. I want to hear what you guys think. I'm excited to see what you guys think. Excited to see what the community thinks of this style video. I don't know. I'm excited. I think that the more kind of mass production baits that we draw inspiration from, it's only going to make the garage guys work a little bit harder to stay ahead of that curve. And I think that's kind of good for the community in a way. In a weird sense, I think it's good that stuff like this gets made into cheaper stuff like this. I don't know. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Make sure you guys follow the Instagram, Scales and Tails Media. If you guys are interested at work and you're bored, check out the podcast, Scales and Tails Podcast, on all your listening platforms. Again, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm excited to see, read all these comments and kind of make my own guesses. In the summer, I will make some videos on these things and how they swim, how they perform, versus their heavily copied brothers in arms here. We'll do a Nessie video versus the 250 in the mag draft versus the Coal Shad. I'm super excited about that, and I'm excited to bring that to you guys. I hope that you guys watch this video and think, hey, maybe when I go to Cabela's, I'm gonna buy a mag draft and not a Coal Shad. But if not, I can't stop you guys. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.